So thanks everyone for joining. For those of you who aren't regulars at the White Pond Advisory Committee, I'm Josh Galper. I'm co-chair along with Beth Kelly. Cheryl, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Cheryl Baggin. Been on
Great.
the committee several years. Yep.
And Jim?
Jim Ricker, 68 Shore Drive. I'm a committee member.
Great, thank you. The other two committee members are Jeff Parker, who's been on a big trip. I'm not sure where he is this evening. And Beth Kelly, who's camping and is expected to be dialing in at any moment. All right, so thanks everyone. So what we're going to do tonight is we have a little bit of administrative business. Then we're making a call for volunteers. Then we're going to talk about a potential White Pond Advisory Committee submission to the Concord Preservation Committee. And then we'll have time for other questions and Q&A. So to start, we have the minutes from our last meeting on August 25th. I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Cheryl and I approve. Jim, do you approve the minutes?
I do.
Okay, minutes are thusly approved. Thank you. The next thing, Beth reminded me to let everybody know that our White Pond Vision 2021 is pretty much done at this point. We're pretty pleased. The expectation is that we'll be able to approve it at our September 29th meeting. So we released a draft. We got a lot of comments back from the community, which is great. All those comments have been incorporated in the vision. And so the final document will be ready at the end of this month, I believe, for our meeting approval. And then it can be put on the website, sent to the select board, to the town, all the things that are supposed to happen with it. All right, great. So moving forward, the next thing on our list is a call for volunteers. So as many of you know, there is a long list. There's a lot of stuff that this committee ought to be doing. And we'd like to ask for help. By open meeting laws, volunteers will not be members of the committee. They will not be subcommittee members, and they may not provide advice or recommendations. That is my understanding.
They probably had to say that, even though it's not true.
Well, I was told it was true, and that came from the town clerk. So, you know, want to be in compliance. So that's what I know of it. But there's a lot of research, a lot of figuring out, finding out what to do. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'd like to ask people to volunteer. We're a small enough group that if you'd like to unmute yourself and say your name, your address, and what committee you'd be on, that's fine. Or you're welcome to send me a note in the chat. Or if you have my email address, you're welcome to just send me an email as well. I think most folks here do. What I was going to do is actually read down. Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
I was going to read down what these volunteer roles mean, and maybe that would help folks decide if they want to be involved in that activity. On trout restocking, the town has sent 2 letters to the state of Massachusetts asking them at various points to reconsider rainbow trout restocking or stop rainbow trout restocking. There's been no change. As far as we know, the state has not responded. So we're sort of at square one there, needing to figure out why is the state not responding? Should the town formally reach out to our state representatives, to the Commissioner for the Environment of the state of Massachusetts? So this starts out as a research activity. What happened? You know, and are there existing laws from the state of Massachusetts that would stop them de facto from restocking trout or doing something different if we were to show them scientific evidence that says, actually, White Pond doesn't meet your criteria now or any longer or some variation?
And Josh, if I could just, I know I mentioned this earlier to you, but we got some additional data or some additional research. Josh, from a professor at university, or a woman, a scientist who works with the University of New Hampshire, sort of giving us some more data to support our position that rainbow trout might not be the appropriate fish to restock the pond with, which is good background data.
Yeah. We have a lot of data also. So anyone working on trout restocking is going to walk in with a lot of info, and then some more needs to be gathered, particularly around the state's response.
I have a question.
Yes.
Am I taking notes tonight, or who's taking notes?
Oh, Jim is taking minutes.
Who is?
Jim Ricker, who's now
Oh, Jim is.
officially
Okay, all
on the
right.
committee.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, we forgot to officially welcome you. Welcome.
Should I raise my hand?
Sure, Diane, yes.
Hi, so I'm interested in the trout restocking stuff.
Terrific.
Whatever information I could get, I'm gonna be gone for a couple of weeks. What's the timing on this, and what's the timing of the plan on moving? Because I'm not gonna be here for a little while.
Yeah, I think they're all a bit different, actually. I think that people will work on these things as they're able. And if something starts to come to a head, we'll ask you, hey, what do you know? You know, how quickly can we move here?
All right, well, I would be interested in being involved in this. If I could get
Great.
whatever information people have, what's been done so far, some names, like who have we been writing these letters to? So whatever information you have, I would be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, what I figure we'll do is once volunteers are sort of assembled, we'll send to you, all the volunteers, everything we've got. And then you guys will sort of take it over from there and let us know when you have something to say about it, or we'll check in with you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Ken Clarkson, your hand is raised. And also if I could ask people, I think the law states we're supposed to say our addresses when we say our names as well.
Ken Clarkson at 77 Bolton, and I just wanted to add my name to the list to help out with the trout issue.
Great, thank you, Ken. And Ken, as I remember, you know a lot about this already. Is that correct?
I'm gradually educating myself. I've been in touch with Nancy from UNH and starting to gather information, but I'm also, really interested in likewise finding out what's been submitted by the town, when, and to whom, and things like that. So I'd love to help out with that.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Ken. All right, great. So anyone else, again, feel free to put it in the chat or to text or to email me. Meanwhile, we'll move on to fertilizer management. So here, a lot of open questions about should there be a law about people who live near the pond in the groundwater, not the groundwater overlay district, but in the watershed district, two slightly different things, about what fertilizers we put down and when. Should there not be a law? What do other towns do? Are there best practices that should be promoted? Should there be a voluntary code that we agree to protect the pond? A lot of uncertainty about what other people do, or what other towns do, what best practices are, and what the town of Concord might consider. Is anyone interested in working on fertilizer management? Okay, I'm going to keep going for now. The next topic is about data organization and encouragement of testing by town and volunteers. So this is not about the testing itself. It's about how the data get organized. That could, maybe the town has a database that could start being used for white pond testing data of all sorts. Maybe the town doesn't. And so there needs to be a white pond affiliate. There's already a group that's working on building a website for white pond information. Maybe the testing data would live there. But what we're really looking to do here is aggregate all of the town and volunteer testing data, as well as all the really wonderful studies that come out on occasion of independent people doing testing. Jeff Parker on our committee recently did some testing. So all of these things could be fed into the database. Ken, are you raising your hand again?
Hi, this is actually Suzanne Langridge, 77 Bolton on Penn's phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been starting to organize into a spreadsheet the data, and could certainly help more with that.
Great. Any SQL nuts out there? Anybody who knows their management information systems?
Yeah, I
Microsoft
can help.
Access?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Was that me? I think I just spoke. Yeah, I can help out with that as well.
Okay, Jeff, I'll put you down on that. Great. All right, terrific, thank you. Next topic, road paving and drainage. Laura Wilson on White Ave says that she'd like to work on that. And here there's a lot of overlapping threads that include the quality of paved roads. Some community members have recently begun independently organizing drain cleaning. The White Pond Youth Conservation Group has done some work around road paving. Again, this is one of those sort of research questions. We don't really know enough to be asking the right questions and starting to figure out, should there be a coordinated conversation about road paving? I'm sure that the town of Concord knows a ton about this. Is anyone interested to work on road paving and drainage matters?
I have something to add to the drainage. Yeah,
Yeah.
the drains, down at the bottom of the boat ramp have been clogged for, God, I don't know, 6 months, a year, I don't know. So when the water comes down during a rainstorm, and I've told the town manager about this, nothing's been happened. It goes around the drain and then to the second drain. It all gets picked up, but it would work a lot better if the drains were. I guess the town has a machine that sucks everything, all the fleas out of the drain, but that needs to be done.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
All right.
that's something we could ask the town about. But as far as paving, I
Okay,
don't know.
so that's all right. So no volunteer at the moment, so I think we can move forward.
Yeah.
Other committee liaisons. So what this role is sitting in the meetings of other town committees and basically hearing what they have to say. And if they're talking about things that intersect with White Pond, to be able to let us know, or to let them know, hey, this was discussed by the White Pond Advisory Committee recently. What we found just in a quick conversations is that there are many more committees than we as committee members can get to. I think the select board feels the same way from what I understand. The committees that we know of that would warrant having a liaison are the Health Committee, Recreation, Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, Preservation, and Planning. Is there anyone interested in being a volunteer liaison to any of these committees?
Why is NRC not part of that list, though?
My oversight. So I'll put it on right now.
Okay, you're unmuted. I just wanted to mention that I've been auditing the middle school building committee. I'm not sure that's relevant, but should anything come up about White Pond, I will clearly be a conduit of that information, but I'm already auditing a town committee.
Great, thank you, Dave. And Dave, for the record, could you state your name, please?
So
And
David
your,
Beard, 20 Darton Street.
thanks very much. All right.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? I just got a message from Beth. Is there a dial-in address? She can't use the internet. I don't see one on the login information.
Yes, I don't think we were provided one with this login.
Okay, I'll
I
tell
think
her.
Zoom has generic numbers, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, but I don't see a dial-in. Okay.
Okay.
Josh, I'd be interested in the NRC
And our,
committee.
that's Jim, great.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we will move forward. Water quality testing. This is a tough one and a big one. So as part of developing the White Pond vision, we have gathered a great and substantial amount on testing of Massachusetts and area ponds. So we know quite a lot about what other ponds are doing in a sort of 2-hour radius of here, and including on Cape Cod. What we don't have is language that we can use yet with the town of Concord, that we're all on the same page. We don't have a testing plan that when we've talked to experts about what the town of Concord is doing, we've sort of been scoffed at. You know, we've sort of been like, oh yeah, not so good. So this requires a lot of conversation with the town, with going through the data that we've collected, potentially talking to other experts, going back to some of the experts we've spoken with, and being able to, I think, work with the town and potentially volunteers around the pond to have a water quality testing plan that is agreed upon, that this is our standard. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to measure. These are the goals. I know that Beth Kelly, my co-chair on the committee, will be working on this. Would anyone else like to work on this tricky and
Yeah,
long?
I'll work on that. I'd love to work on that with Beth.
Sorry, that's Jeff. Okay.
Yeah, that's Jeff.
And Katie?
Yeah, and Kate Blair, 20 Darton Street. I mean, I have history with water quality testing here, so I might as well, you know, be a voice from the history, and also I'm happy to work with Beth and Jeff on that.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, terrific. And,
Yeah, and I can,
yes, please.
this is Suzanne again on 77 Bolton, so I can continue also helping wherever work on that, wherever makes sense.
Okay.
We've been doing the testing of some of the testing, so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And,
Josh, I missed who that was. After
that
Katie.
was
oh,
Suzanne.
sorry,
Landry.
Suzanne.
Oh,
Mhm.
Suzanne, okay, thank
77
you.
Bolton.
Yep.
And I'll just say that while it's awesome that Jeff and Kate will volunteer, and Suzanne, thank you so much. It's really terrific. The more different people that we can get involved here as well, the better.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Especially some folks who are newer to the community or have not been as actively involved with White Pond. I'll just tell you, we got the vision done, but there is a lot more work to be done. And it's going to go on for a while. It's not a short-term thing. So the more we can spread the work out, I think the easier it'll be for everybody.
I have one other catch-up question.
Yes.
Trout, did a third person put in their name?
No, it was just Diane Reynolds and Ken Clarkson.
Okay, good, thanks.
Okay. The next topic is about an audit committee of town spending on pond and beach projects. And here, Kate Hodges and Delia Kay have been very helpful in the last week or so, responding to an email that I sent over. So we've got a bunch of info. I'm not sure that this committee or this volunteer project is a big deal, but it does seem to me like there's some wrap up to be done. So what was spent, what's committed, where's the money gone, where is it still coming from? So is anyone interested in tracking down spending by the town on pond and beach projects, and just so we have it all in one place as a coordinated thing?
Man, it's. I mean,
All right,
that's something that.
Let's no need to push it. Let's hold it here and keep moving. We'll come back to it, or people are welcome to email me or send a note later. The next piece of work is about community emails and information sharing, and that's actually in process. So some weeks ago, we sort of asked around, would anybody like to take this on? And we got some great volunteers. Ken, are you working on this? Do I remember that correctly or no? Ken Clarkson?
So I can talk, I can speak to that if you'd like. If Ken, I think Ken might, I don't know if he's on his phone. So Kate Blair, 20 Darton Street. Ken and Lucas and I and Chris Berzon are all working on that.
Great, thank you. So Jim, that's Lucas Irwin. And is Chris Gerzon, Kate, is she still living in Concord?
She doesn't, no, she's not, but she's happy to help. She has her own website, which is called Preserve White Pond. And so there's going to be some cross, I don't want to say contamination.
Fertilization.
That's Betty.
Which is another issue. But that's see number two.
Right. Between those two things, and other we have Ken made a Facebook page. We're doing some good things, but Lucas was away for a while, so we need to jump back in, but, and we will, but we haven't, you know, we will keep you apprised as we know more.
Great, thank you.
So
So
could you say Lucas's last name again, please?
Irwin, IRWIN.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And so folks, so everyone knows, this is another one that's going to go on for a while, the community emails and information sharing. What we're really looking to do is have a central repository of information for White Pond related stuff. If we know that the beach is closed, that could be sent out to an email distribution list. That would be an opt-in list. People who live in the community could join that. People who are visitors, people who live in Wyoming and just want to, know what's going on can sign up for that. But to be able to broadly disseminate information, it's a concern that we have in the community. And so, I think we're able to take care of this ourselves.
Great.
All right, moving on, sewage treatment or alternatives. Similar to water quality testing, this is one of the biggies. It's gonna take some real time to figure out. There have been several Town of Concord studies on this, 2010, 2013. Alan Cathcart, who's on this call, is a wealth of information. We don't have an answer. Should there be sewage? Should there be improved septic systems that are grandfathered or that must be installed when existing Title V septics are no longer functioning and need to be replaced? I can't say that there's agreement in the community on what should happen.
Right.
But I can say that similar to these other topics, I think the way that things are going to move forward here is by some real applied research by a couple of volunteers or as many volunteers as can be found to be interested, that will ultimately lead to a conclusion. There's another topic where we have, as the White Pond Advisory Committee, gathered quite a lot of data. It's in the vision. We know where the studies are from 2010 and 2013. We know what money was spent as a result of those studies on sewage improvement. So we've got some steps forward, but really looking for a couple of strong-willed and hardy volunteers to take the project forward. Would anyone like?
I'm definitely interested in that. And I think one thing to add to that, as you were saying in something earlier, it'd be good to know what other towns are doing.
Yeah.
With, as far as septics on ponds. I've had the experience I've had around here is I was doing something up in Littleton, and they're like, "Oh no, there's no septics on our ponds. They've all been in tight tanks." I'm not saying we do that, but I'm just saying that there are different standards around the state than the standard at White Pond.
And a bunch of towns in Cape Cod have also said no septics.
Yeah,
have been successful. So Jeff, I just want to call out, Jeff, much as I appreciate it, you volunteered for 3 committees, which basically means
okay,
you're maxed out here, bud.
All right, I'm maxed out.
I'll work with Jeff on this.
Okay, great, Jim, thank you. Anyone who's not been heard from, anyone who wants to volunteer their children in high school, their spouses, this is a good one for the people who aren't here and said, "Oh yeah, I'll do something." We can say, "Oh yeah, you're on the sewage committee," or the sewage volunteers, not the committee, sorry. All right, so no more for now, so we'll move forward. Number 10, well number 7 pumping and pond water level. Jeff, could you actually talk about what that is, what needs to happen there?
Okay, so I had a conversation with Alan, and it was while I've been out of town for 3+ weeks, so I called him while I was in a car somewhere in South Dakota. But we had a conversation. He's a wealth of knowledge in that area, and I need to talk to him again. But we want to know if and how that well pumping affects the pond. And it's a big if, but it's just a question, the water level in the pond. And so I need to talk to him more about that. I was amazed at what he knew, and it was different than some of the assumptions that I mean, I thought the well was only a few years old. It was only like 10 years old, but it's been there for 50 years, I think he told me. So anyway, I'm going to talk to him again and get some that data.
Great.
And
And
we'll go.
who does well number 7 service? Is that pulling water out of White Pond, and is that
No,
drinking?
I think well number 7. I think we're talking about the same well. It's the one southeast of the pond. It's very close to where that new development is.
Mhm.
And I don't know where it services, but from the Harvard study that Jim talked about of the water, I mean the groundwater flowing southeast from the north side of the pond to the southeast side of the pond. It's very interesting because in the southeast corner of the pond, there is no ridge. I mean, right there by Satcham's Cove, you know, there's the water, and then there's like 2 feet up, and then it goes downhill from there. So the question is, if you're sucking water on a well that's southeast of the pond, 200 meters or however far it is that going to end up sucking water out of the pond? That's the main question. And I think we can figure that out by looking at whatever the Harvard study and the data that Alan has, and he knows a lot. And I didn't follow up enough because I've been traveling for 3 weeks unexpectedly, but I'll do more before the next meeting on that subject.
Okay. So this could turn out to be a short volunteer assignment.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else on the line who'd be interested to work with Jeff and work to sort this out? Kate?
Kate Blair, 20 Darton Street. So Bill Walker also has done studies of this to see what the water levels are. And I have to say that over the course of, I'm going to say 10 years, we've never been able to make a correlation between the water level and pumping of the well. So whether or not.
Yeah, but what's interesting is all the ponds in the area are now at full high levels. And, you know, they've all recovered from the drought, and White Pond has not recovered from the drought. It's still pretty darn low.
What? I think it's really high.
Is it high?
Coming up
It is.
onto my
It's-
property.
Yeah.
Maybe, okay, I've been gone for 3 weeks, but so I stand corrected. But like in 2011, it was all the way up to the stone wall on the beach. And it seemed like it's just over the last 5-10 years, over the last 5-6 years, it just keeps dropping and dropping. Whereas I go to Walden now and it's freaking high.
Well, that stone wall has only been put in the last couple years. So
Well,
maybe you're,
before it was wood. It was wood before that, but it was up to the wall.
And they've put more sand down, and there's been other changes too.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it bears looking into, but there is data. So
Well, yeah. If you think if you think it's not a problem, the water level, then we can just let it.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that Bill Walker did do a study. It looked as though there was not a correlation, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't look at it again.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That Bill Walker did discover, David Beer, 20 Garden Street, is that the height of the pond follows the 3-year average rainfall. And that's a pretty good correlation. So
Yeah, but you know, that's true until I think about 5 or 6 years ago, where all of a sudden it's just been dropping and it's been dropping, and it's never really. I mean, I've been gone for 3 weeks and it's rained a bunch, but up until 3 weeks ago, it never really recovered the way the other ponds have.
Well, so the water level at the Dover Street beach is now up to where it was last year. So so it's back up. It has not come up to the very highest, which was when it was right up to the top of the steps or the bottom of the steps.
Yeah.
It's not there
I
yet.
think it's only 3 times I've seen it on our beach, 3 or 4 times that it's been this high, actually.
Oh, and then there you go. I guess, okay, I'm wrong. It's not an issue. It's not an issue.
Alan Cathcart, are you comfortable commenting at this time? Do you know fully what's going on here with the pumping and pond water level? Would you call this an issue or a non-issue?
It's an issue because of the interest and impact is what we're talking about. And it's a very unusual system. I would say that generally it reflects regional trends over a longer period of time, not a short period of time. So Jeff is correct. We've had an unusual amount of rainfall in July. It was very dry in June, very wet in July and August. But White Pond has, I like the idea, and I'm intrigued with this concept of 3 years of precipitation correlation. That sounds like it might be a good kind of baseline to look at. But there has been a lot of work, and certainly as we talk about water resources in the area, we can talk about it, and as well as the wastewater. And I'd also just offer that the pond itself serves the general community, everybody, including White Pond neighborhood.
Yep, great, thank you. So maybe what we need in number 10 there is a couple pages of write-up that says, here's everything we know, here are the facts, and then that can go on our community website and just have it there as a reference. So, we'll all know, and the next time this topic comes around, we'll be able to say, well, here's everything we knew up until September 2021 and be able to move forward. Jeff, would that work?
Yeah, I can write something up. Yeah, I'll talk to Alan again because he's so knowledgeable. But from what everybody's saying, it's quite high now, so maybe it's not an issue, but I will write something. Yeah.
Great.
Can I add something about the pond?
Please.
Alice Rosen, 27 Havelock Street. So I've noticed a strange phenomena around Sachem's Cove up to where the first fence is, or the second fence, just the outer bounds of the cove. The water is as high as it was when it was very, very high. But it seems like there's been a tip in the earth, because it's not as drastically high at our beach and at the association beach, but it's very high around the cove. It's
So
like-
I don't know if this is the case, but it could be because there was a lot of erosion there.
Yeah.
Right, so that could affect how high, I know erosion controls have been put in place, but that might have affected, the depth of the water there, which would have caused the edge of the water to go higher because there was more fill in there before the erosion was in place.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's definitive, but that certainly could have played a role in it, because there was a lot of erosion there before the town got involved.
But not everywhere. It's like the whole cove is definitively where it used to be when it was so high that it was alarming.
Well, that's good news.
So Alice or anyone else who's spoken up on this topic, would you like to give Jeff a bit of air support and join him in figuring out what's going on and producing a short write-up?
I'll give a shot at it. I'm not very clear what I would do, but I would, yes, I'll join with him.
All right, thank you, Alice.
This is Ken at 77 Bolton, and I just want to let you know, with the new website that Lucas and I are working on, I've started building out a resource page. So if there's an efficient way to get this kind of information to me that you're talking about from previous studies, and I'm starting to just kind of collect it here and there as people send me stuff, I can post, it seems like an appropriate place to post this information for people to look at.
Yep. No, I think that's great. Thank you.
That's cool.
So when you want that data, are you collecting studies that are related specifically to White Pond as well?
Exactly. Yeah, like some papers I've gotten from Nancy. I'm going to post those on there. Some other things from the CDC on cyanobacteria, but especially I'm going to have links for all of the water quality data that's been collected. So there's like a big Google folder that people can have access to, and it's a read-only folder, but it'll be public information.
Great, thank you.
Ken, Cheryl's got your number. Here they come.
All right. All right.
Great. And the Stager study, we've got quite a lot of great reports, and Cheryl's really on top of that. Okay, great. So that's well number 7. Then the last one is beach project development. As you may know, at our last meeting, we asked for a momentary pause in the beach project. We're not clear what's going on. I've exchanged emails with Kate. I've shared those emails with the White Pond Advisory Committee. Sorry, with Kate Hodges, Deputy Town Manager. I'm still not clear what's going on. And it's confusing and definitely frustrating. At this point, I think it would be great if there were other people, volunteers who got involved to review the beach project, hear from Kate and others in the town, what they think about water quality in the beach project. Talked with us about the vision or read the vision, and we're able to say, as a research project, here's where I think that there's common ground and where there's not common ground. Because at the moment, I'm left scratching my bald head a good bit. So is there anyone interested in getting involved in the beach project? Sort of doing a review of the project, particularly as relates to White Pond water quality. So that's what we asked for the halt for. So we're concerned that without a real plan for water quality management, water testing, and people management, that there is a very good chance that a beach on White Pond is going to be built on unusable water in warm months going forward. The town does not appear to think that. We will continue this conversation. This is not done. But in the meanwhile, I think it'd be very good if some neutral folks got involved. So is there anyone interested in the beach project who'd like to have that role?
Well, I've been volunteered for a lot of committees, but
Yeah, you can't do it. You're out.
it's something that really, I have the same feeling about it, because it's just, there's all these assumptions about the money they're spending is going to improve water quality, and I just don't see it.
Right. I don't see it either. Cheryl, you may have a different opinion. You want to speak up about that?
Well, no, because I mean, that's what we moved at our last meeting, right? We moved it,
Okay.
Except for the build out of the drainage in increasing the drainage or at the bottom of the state road there. I agree that we need to do everything else should be on hold until we have some understanding about what's going on with the quality of the water and people management. Yes.
All right. And town folks, just so you know, on this committee, we have strong differences of opinion about whether the build out of stormwater management at the bottom of the paved area is even necessary. Our testing suggests otherwise. Anyhow, I don't want to deliberate that on this call. But again, besides Jeff, is there anyone else able and willing to get involved in the beach project and work to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, Nick Johnson, 38 Bolden. I mean, I feel like we all have been doing that. So I'm not sure if you want to be more specific. It kind of seems like we've done that, and the response has been, it's kind of too late. We had, the town manager has said we cannot relitigate this issue. 4 months ago, I was told that by Delia and Kate as well. So there's nothing to be done. It's going forward. So I'm not really sure what this request is exactly, if we are still back to square one with where we stand on this.
Right. Honestly, I'd like to see the town and our community avoid a train wreck with this beach project. I'd like to see the beach project move forward. I'd like to see it be very successful, but that's predicated on a healthy White Pond. If White Pond is in a state of disrepair or cultural eutrophication, as it's called, meaning the human element of helping the pond die, then all this money being spent on the beach is going to be a big waste. So that's what we called for a halt for. I think there needs to be some additional engagement to better understand the project, the intent of the town in helping White Pond turn the corner back to being a healthy ecological system. And how does that fit in with the science that we're presenting in the White Pond vision? I'm just not seeing the path, the language line up. I'm not seeing the intents line up right now.
Joe,
yeah,
is this more focused on that we don't have enough programs in place to, first of all, control and eliminate as much of the nitrogen and phosphorus loading as possible through whatever means, and then come up with plans on how we go through remediation. So to stop the damage and then remediate. And they're really two different projects. If we tie it too closely to the beach project, my thought there would be if there was a suspension on that till water quality really got dealt with, that's one approach. But the project itself, I think, has gone through all the funding phases, and that money told cannot be redirected to another use. At least that's what I've heard.
What we said a couple weeks ago, Jim, was that we wanted to have a halt on the project until there were real plans in place.
Right.
So that we could all of us, the town, the community, beach permit holders could all look around and say, yeah, this pond is going to make it. This beach project, this should go forward. Right now, as co-chair of the official White Pond Advisory Committee, I can't look anybody in the face and say that.
Yeah, I like to say, I agree with Josh 100% on what he's saying.
All right. So
And
I'm
Jim, I get your point. I agree, but I think what Josh is saying is nobody's saying hold up the beach project. It's just that we would like to know that in conjunction with that, the town is taking seriously the fact that the water quality has been, degrading over many, many years, not just this year, and that action has to be taken in that regard. At the same time, you're considering a beach, because you can't just do the beach and disregard the fact that the water quality has been decreasing in quality.
I
And
agree with that,
the people
Cheryl,
management
but
goes along with that.
I agree with that. I just don't want us to, in trying to go in that route, get hung up on an additional review of the project, because that's already happened. And
yeah, and I don't see
I think
that.
what we're asking is that could it be delayed until we get a plan together to how we're going to really take care of this water quality before
Well, and
we
that's
go
what
ahead and.
That's what we said 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, that's what
We're
I'm.
not saying anything about the beach plans. I think that's done.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
not saying anything about refunding or defunding. That we're not saying any of that. What we're saying is, please don't spend this money. Please don't do this until there are plans in place that are legit plans for water quality, water testing, and people management. Nobody's talked at all about the development on Route 117 and the impact that's going to have on the pond, for example.
I think it's just helpful to make that clear to the town officials who have been working on it. I mean, we've had information for many years now about what's going on in the pond, starting several years ago with Bill Walker and some of his measurements. And to me, the time has really come. I mean, it was not fun to look over at the town beach this year and not see people there swimming and enjoying it. It was kind of a sad thing for the summer, and I just hate to see that be a regular thing.
Well, the science that we've gathered in the White Pond Vision suggests that not only could it be a regular thing, but the odds are pretty good that it would be if nothing else were to change. So,
Yeah, I agree.
okay. So we do not have a volunteer or volunteers to work on the beach conversation, so we can move on. I'm just going to recap what.
Josh, can I just ask a question?
Yes, Kate.
Okay, Kate Blair, 20 Darton Street. My understanding is that phase 1 of the beach project is the county road sewage drainage system, right? That's phase 1.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that's supposed to be happening soon until November. Is the White Pond Advisory Committee okay with that going forward? Because that would be helpful for the water quality.
I'm not sure. I'd like to comment on that.
Yeah.
There's been these huge assumptions that road is a source of the pollution in White Pond, and I don't think it is. I've done I've tested it, and I think the reason they feel that is because every time it rains, the numbers go up in the pond.
What numbers,
And
Jeff?
the E. coli over at the beach. And so they assume, there's an assumption that water is coming down the road into the beach and bringing pollution, water's, and it, you know, I've tested the pond and it has E. coli, and I've tested that road during storms. I tested the water on that road and it's been negative for E. coli. It's also been found that all those fields they don't run off surface wise, they run off to the east. There's some high school has done some projects, other people. But the main thing is that I think you'll find, what we will probably find is that the E. coli goes up, not just at the beach, it goes up everywhere in the pond. And I think it's not, I think what the source is that when it rains, it percolates into the ground and takes the leach field contaminants or nutrients and brings them into the pond from all around the pond. And that's what's happening, I think.
Okay.
And I think there's a real misconception in that, oh, it's Steve Verrill or it's somewhere outside of the pond that's coming in. That isn't the way things work these days.
Can we respond?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not talking about E. coli. We're talking about phosphorus and nitrogen and other.
Correct. Even that. That's all coming from people around the pond, not from people from.
Yes, but it is definitely, so ESS, the high school, Rivers and Revolutions, and Bill Walker have all seen an increase in phosphorus in that area, in the area down below the county road. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where you're getting your data, but the data that we know.
Let me just comment on that. I've been there in big rainstorms. None of the water gets into the pond coming down that road, except when it's a really big storm, it'll run down the beach like for a very short time. But everything goes into those what do you call them? The drainage.
Catch basins.
And the catch basins work even though the first one's clogged. Now, okay, you'll have higher phosphorus and nitrogen there, but you're going to have it everywhere in the pond. You're going to have it everywhere.
But the idea is to get at least one source, because it's easier for us to fix that because the town is willing to fix it than to try to get some of the homeowners.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a source. It's just, and the water running down that road is cleaner than the water in the pond. Much cleaner.
I believe this gentleman is slightly in error and doesn't understand that phosphorus and other nutrients are a natural component of rainwater. And if you'd like, I could send you that documents. But
I'm just telling you, the rainwater running down the road does not reach the pond. It doesn't reach the pond.
Well,
okay, I've looked at it. I've gone there in rainstorms. I've tested it.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that would be me.
Hi, this is Kate Hodges. Thank you very much. I am certainly not going to debate the sciences of it because admittedly, I am not an environmental geologist, nor am I a stormwater management expert. But we actually paid when we were doing the White Pond Master Plan around the time that we were being gifted the property by White Pond Associates to have a stormwater analogist, 2 stormwater engineers, and an environmental geologist come out during several of the rainstorms, both before, after, and during, to try to help us understand where the nutrient load was coming and what was happening with the resource area, both on the hillside and along the state road, as we're calling it, or the boat launch. And what they had found is that the current system there, while it works when it's unclogged, as you say, captures about 16,000 gallons of rainwater. And during one of the larger storms, both in 2018 and in 2019, was immediately overflowed and full after 3 minutes of a large rainstorm. And so what happened was it bubbled over and took out whatever was in those catch basins, and it bubbled over and then into the pond. We have data upon data. There's a very large, couple 100-page stormwater management analysis that went through that I'm happy to share. It's actually on the town website that can tell you where the nutrient loading comes from. Again, I am not an expert on this, so I'm not even going to try to tell you what it says. Mr. Parker, please, if I could just finish. And I think it's important to know that we're looking at it from the town's perspective, not just from the roadway, but also from the stairs that are coming down and then the hillside, which if you walk the hillside right now, there isn't much of an understory planting. And something that we're trying to do is sort of reforest that area. And we put quite a bit of money into trying to have a very robust understory planting plan that will hopefully soak up some of that. But what we've been told is the stormwater management plan that we are trying to put in would be for the 100-year storm. It's able to take on and infiltrate more than 35 to 60,000 gallons of water a minute. So it's very, very robust. And while it in no means is going to be the magic fix for the pond as a whole, I think it's important to know that it's a good step. It's a step in the right direction. And we're talking about the 238 or so feet of water line that the town has the ability to make some improvements upon. So I guess I just wanted to point the committee in that direction. I hear that you have you're doing a data organization, and I'd love to be able to have that study on. The more places that you can have that information, that people can read it and generate questions and understand what we've tried to do to study it from people that do this for a living. So I guess I'd offer that and just let you know that we've tried our best to try to really understand it as best we can. And it's not foolproof, but we're working on it.
Right, thanks, Kate.
I appreciate you giving me the time. Thank you, sir.
Sure, thank you, Kate. So Jeff is a water quality engineer. So in fact, if you could forward at least to me that study, or if you have Jeff's email to forward to him, Jeff, I think it'd be great if you could review that. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of this part.
Okay, sounds great.
Great, thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just go through this list again quickly and read the names that we've got. Give folks any opportunity to say, hey, I'd like to be on that committee too. Certainly, you're very welcome. So for Trout Restocking, we have Diane Reynolds and Ken Clarkson. For Fertilizer Management, we don't have anybody. Data organization and encouragement of testing by town and volunteers, we have Susan Langridge and we have Jeff Parker. Road paving and drainage, we have Laura Wilson. Other committee liaisons, Jim Ricker for the NRC, and Dave Berg has been shadowing the middle school conversation, although we don't know that we're going to have much overlap with them. Water quality testing, again, this is one of our really tough ones. Jeff Parker, Kate Blair, Beth Kelly, who's not on the call, but she's a co-chair of this committee, and Suzanne Langridge again. An audit committee of town spending on pond and beach projects. We don't have anyone for that. Community emails and information sharing. That project is underway. So that's Ken Clarkson, Lucas Irwin, and Laura Wilson said she'd also help support that. Sewage treatment or alternatives. Jeff Parker again and Jim Ricker. Well number 7, pumping and pond water level, and hopefully that's going to be a quick one. Jeff and Alice Rosen. And then beach project development. Nick, I heard you speak up, but I'm not sure that you were really volunteering. It's possible we have no one for that at this time. Nick, do you have anything further you want to say on the topic?
I mean, it's not that I don't want to volunteer my time. Of course I do. I just, what would you like volunteers to do? I mean, again, we have a town representative in this meeting right now, and you just said you didn't know what was going on. So this would be a good opportunity to ask what's going on. One of the liaisons.
Right. So following.
I just wanted not to circle back and revisit that, but I have to say something before we even go forward. I mean.
Sure. No, I understand. So following a number of emails, for example, what Kate said just now about the studies she has, those should go to Jeff. Really, he's our water quality engineer guy. I don't feel that I have good information. I feel that it would be very beneficial for someone who's not been involved with the vision to come in, read the vision, hear from the town about what their plans are, to get a really robust understanding of how is the town's beach project lining up with water quality, water testing, and people management for White Pond, and to form an independent opinion about, yeah, the beach project is going to work, and the town is really supportive of there being a healthy White Pond, and here's why. Or to come back and say, no, actually, you know, the vote you guys made the other week of asking to pause this project until there are real plans in place, that should stay. I just don't think we're barely at square one, in my opinion.
Okay, then yes, I volunteer my time, 30, I mean, 100%. I just want to say again, we need to be like at least in agreement that there's somewhat of a problem. I don't even think that is being shared at this point. If I could ask Kate, who's on the phone, do you feel that there is a problem with the health of the pond? Sorry, we have to ask that question. If they don't even agree that there's a
Yes.
problem, then there's no point in finding out anything about the beach project.
Right. So, Kate, I'm going to let you off the hook here. Following email conversations between Kate and myself, I don't want to get into a big debate on this call. I think there are quite a lot of conversations to be had, but I will tell you, Nick, I have not heard from the town that there is a problem. Whereas,
sir, that is fundamentally untrue. So
Okay,
I would
Kate,
ask that you not represent that here.
well, Kate, I asked you a straightforward question in an email. You didn't answer me. So
That isn't true
okay.
either, sir. What I said to you was that we were spending $750,000 on a robust stormwater management plan, which initially, when we acquired the property, we were talking about having a restroom facility. We completely put that aside after not even half a season of running it, because we recognized that the stormwater management was equal, if not more important than the ADA access. I have said that at not less than 4 town meetings. I have said that on 9 public hearings, 17 public
Kate,
forums.
I'm going to ask you.
Mr. Galper,
I'm gonna
you
ask you to pause here,
represented that I
because
didn't
you-
say it, and I did. So I'd like you to at least let me, please, set the record straight here. The town absolutely, fundamentally, 100% recognizes that there is an issue with the White Pond water quality. We are taking steps, aggressive steps, to be able to control what we can control and improve upon 238 feet of shoreline water. It is more than 1.1 miles worth of shoreline. And so it is not a quick fix.
No, it's
Please.
not a quick fix, but this is a multi-tier problem. This goes way beyond the drainage.
I know, but you're insinuating that the town's project doesn't have that in mind. And I also have Natural Resources Director Delia Kay, who's raising her hand, and I would appreciate Mr. Galper as chair if you could recognize her.
Kate, I'm going to ask you to stop talking at this time because of everything that you and I have exchanged by email, and what you have said just now simply reiterates to me that the town, yes, has a view, but this is very different than what we've discovered in the process of creating the White Pond vision. Now, we've heard from Delia before. We will certainly hear from Delia again. Delia, if you have particular comments you'd like to make now, happy to hear them. But the intent of this meeting is not to get into this. This is actually what we would like volunteers to step in for. Because frankly, I don't think we're going to get anywhere in this conversation, Kate. Delia, are there some
So
comments
thank you. Yeah,
you'd like to make?
I would love to just add a few words. I would just reiterate what Kate is saying. The town has been concerned about the water quality of White Ponds for many, many years. So in 2011, 12, 13, we commissioned a watershed management plan so that we could understand what we were dealing with. And you would ask for that information. I sent you the link. It's on our town website. So you can,
We've read it.
okay, wonderful. But I would just say that the town is very committed to preserving the water quality of White Pond for many, many reasons. And I guess I would ask, I don't want to, reiterate what Kate has said, because I think she said it, she articulated that well. but I have a question in regards to the vision that the advisory committee is preparing. So the committee is a group that advises the town. And so you're a town committee and you're preparing a vision, but are you seeking any town input into that vision? Because I would love to read it and give you comments. And I'm sure everybody, you know, you have a lot of town staff who are attending this meeting and who are interested in the ponds.
Yes. So in
So
fact,
we
draft-
would love to have an opportunity. I'm going to speak for myself. I would love the opportunity to review and provide feedback into, you know, what you propose as the White Pond vision, because I think the vision is not just of the White Ponds Advisory Committee, but it's of the town. And we can provide you with, you know, we have a lot of collective experience and expertise and, you know, knowledge around the pond. You guys also have a lot, but let's work together instead of having it be, it feels a little bit more antagonistic than I think it should be for a town committee.
It feels antagonistic to us as well, Delia. So in fact, the draft of the White Pond Vision was posted to the town website in early August. Emails were sent to yourself, to Kate.
Not to me. I did not receive an email about the vision.
I'll double check that. It wasn't me.
I'm sure I did not, but please do double check. Our
Okay.
email sometimes is a little sketchy, but yeah.
Yes, so we had many rounds of calls for input. We actually went and hung out on street corners in the neighborhoods to get input from town residents. We invited town employees to comment. On August 25th at our meeting, it was specifically devoted to gathering comments on the White Pond Vision draft.
So I actually attended your August, I thought I attended the August 25th, maybe it was a prior meeting. And I was not asked to provide any comments on that document.
Okay. So
I was advised that it was available, but I was not asked to provide comments. So let's just moving forward, I think if you're looking for town feedback, fabulous. Let's be able to provide you with some feedback, because I think we can collectively work to make a really good document. And I would like to see that happen.
Sure. So we actually have been quite proactive, and Delia, you've come to some of our meetings. You know, we've asked you questions. We've spoken with quite a number of other.
I'm aware, not about the vision, but yes, I'm, yep.
Delia, you were at the meeting and I was at that meeting. If I could just say, it was said by, and I first of all, let me rein in my tone. I'm going to start over. I apologize.
Nick, could you please say your name and your address?
38 Bolton, Nick Johnson. I really don't want this to be an antagonistic thing. Kate, I apologize. Delia, I apologize for my tone. What happened in that meeting was the very first thing that Stephen, the town manager, said is, I hope you guys aren't going to relitigate the beach project, which that was the first thing he said to us. And I can play back the tape if you'd like. That's why I asked you where the recordings are, because I do pay attention to this stuff. We just are not on the same page about the true health of the pond. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if we were all in agreement on the same thing. So I just want to, you guys are acknowledging that there's a problem with as Kate said, a robust sewage management plan that is involved in the beach project. I understand that. I think that's great. And that is part of the help that we need. What I'm more concerned about is not arguing where the source of everything is, but to go beyond that until we know the pond is healthy. And I hope that the part of that big project addresses that, but I think what we're hearing now is a lot of people feel very uncomfortable that this project is moving forward before the health is. I don't think that they have to be one or the other. I don't want to shut down any beach project. Nobody wants to shut that project down. That's not what we're saying. We just want them to be in tandem with a truly healthy pond, healthy for good access, but also healthy for actually being able to use it and it's not putrefied and dead. That's what we're saying. It is not a, you're not part of the process. It's not that we don't want you part of the vision, but you know, there is only one, there's a WPAC for a reason. It's a community commission. It's not necessarily, they present to the town. That's how it's worked historically. Jim Ricker knows this. You know, we want to work together, but what we understand from the town, and again, I don't want this to be an us versus anyone. This really is not what humanity is all about. Okay, we're supposed to work together, right? But this is very passionate to people. They're really upset, and it's not just the people living around the pond. We see a closed pond. That's what we see. So we go off of that, right? So people get fired up. But I want to just emphasize that I think we have to agree that, you know, that there is a problem. Okay, yeah, we all agree that there's a problem. Great. But it doesn't make us, the community, feel good about a big, massive project going on where we don't feel the closed pond, the unswimmable pond, the harmful pond is being addressed properly. And they have to be at the same time. If not, the health of the pond comes first. That's all. I think that's all we're saying. I excuse me for taking so much time.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, so guys, I'd like to recognize Stephen Crane, town manager, for he's got his hand up, and then I'd like to move forward. This really was not meant to be the topic of this particular meeting. Stephen Crane, would you like to speak?
I would, Josh, and thank you for calling on me. So I think in some ways, I think I want to go backwards a little bit in that, and just on the beach project, town meeting approved that project. It has been through the full regulatory process. There's been a lot of input, a lot of opportunities for input, a lot of input received. And so while I very much respect the thoughtfulness with which the WPAC, approved that motion to pause, a lot of other boards and committees have also thoughtfully reviewed the project. And so I just don't see a scenario under which we delay the beach project, because I do believe that the record shows that it is an overall improvement. And again, we can agree to disagree on whether or not that enough study was done or the project is right. But the boards and committees that are responsible for making those decisions have issued their approvals. And unfortunately, I'm a relatively new guy here. And so what I really want to do is ask, my understanding is that there is historical precedence for blooms and pond closure prior to the town's ownership. Is that the case?
Of course, yes.
And so I think because when I hear like a putrefied dying pond, that sounds really scary. And I just can't help but wonder, was that the discussion amongst the White Pond Associates when there was blooms and the pond was closed? I think I'm told that there was a month or more that was lost some years back to algae. And I guess my question is, what was the discussion with the White Pond Associates during, and I know you are not the White Pond Associates, WPAC is not the White Pond Associates, but I'm assuming there's some crossover. And so what was the discussion about the pond dying then, and what changes were made to prevent that? And did we stop, did the White Pond Associates prevent further beach access to save the health of the pond in succeeding years? I mean, I'm trying to get a historical perspective about what was done with the past, because I think it can be I think it can either instruct us on whether or not our approach needs to be modified, or whether or not there's a certain natural cycle to this, and that we don't necessarily have a dying pond. I was a science major, but it was political science, so I'm not qualified to judge that either. And so I guess if there's somebody here from WPAC who can give a little historical perspective, I'd be grateful for that. Thank you.
So Kate Blair from Friends of White Pond, not part of WPAC, but perhaps well placed to answer. Kate, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, Kate Blair, 20 Darton Street. It's true that there were algae blooms or algal blooms, but I don't remember the Associates Beach being closed for long periods of time. It might have been 1 or 2. The major difference between how they managed their beach and how we see the town manage the beach now is that, first of all, it was a private beach. It was a private company. So they were able to make decisions about once the beach had closed, keeping people off by hiring a policeman. Or in May, the same thing. And doing a little bit more management during the evening hours, letting police know. It felt and was a different form of management. They also were very concerned about the county road and their lifeguards would tell them that the water was coming down, and that's why the county, why we put the drainage, we meaning the Friends of White Pond and the town and other concerned people put the old catch basins in that Jeff was talking about. It was a business, so they were allowed to put sand in. I do not remember the sand being red, and I know that there were not blooms every time it rained. And I would look, and now I look at the rivulets coming down the beach and going into the pond and the red around it, and all I can think of is, where did they get this sand? And I know, Delia, I know we've talked about that. The White Pond Associates managed the beach more stringently, and because it was a private beach, they could. So I think that's the major difference that I see. And so when we as pond residents see lots and lots of people, unmanaged people on the beach during times when it's still nice out, but there are no lifeguards, that's the difference. It's just being used differently and being managed differently. That's my take on it. And the associates were very concerned about water quality. They were very concerned about overuse. They were concerned about the cove because they could see directly across, they could see all the people at the cove. They couldn't do anything about it, but they were concerned about it. So that's my retrospective of it. I think you'd have to ask somebody like, there are still several board members who live in Concord. You could certainly contact them and ask them what their recollections are.
And I just want to point out, Cheryl Bagnan, 3 Bolton Street, White Pond Advisory Committee, that the previous vision statement is very similar to the current vision statement. The same issues were raised in the prior vision statement by the White Pond Advisory Committee.
Right, yeah, there's a lot of overlap. Stephen, also, we heard you say pretty loud and clear at a previous meeting that you felt like that perhaps the toxic algae blooms this summer were a result of heavy rainfall and hence more of a one-off. I'm not a scientist either, but from everything I've learned in the preparation of this year's White Pond Vision, I don't believe that that's true. I think we're looking at a new normal as opposed to a one-off kind of situation because of rains. So just to get that in there as well.
Sure. Like I said, I thought I had heard that mentioned even this evening that the rains were a factor, but I may have misheard that. And the only thing I want to, I guess, if I'm going to, and I think you're right, Josh, I think it's, I think moving forward would probably be productive. But I think on behalf of the town, I guess I would just say, I guess I take some umbrage at when we make statements like the town hasn't, provide information or the town doesn't care about the water quality. I think we just need to be careful with how we say that because we are all here. And I do think having some volunteers who can get some quality one-on-one time with town staff and really get into the details, I think would be a benefit because sometimes group conversations aren't the best way to communicate, and especially over Zoom. And so I do think that this could be productive. The only thing I'm going to say is, and I've been doing municipal government for a pretty long time. And, we welcome the questions. All we ask is that you at least accept that we are giving you the answers to the best of our knowledge or answers based on the best information we have. And even if you don't necessarily agree with the answer, at least know that it's coming from a place that spends a lot of time trying to get it right and works really hard to try and solve the problem. And we are all here tonight. And I will tell you that if we can't get to that place where even if we may see data differently, there's not a shared acknowledgement of a shared commitment on both sides to really try and solve this, then I'm not sure what use town staff attending meetings like this is going to be. And so that's my only thing is we're all here trying to accomplish the same thing, even if we view it differently. But there are processes and procedures in place that the town is following. And I just really want to just put a marker down that that's the place we're coming from. And we just want to make sure that the PAC acknowledges that. And again, even in disagreement, understands that we are all here trying to do the right thing. So I'll get off the soapbox now. Thank you for the time.
Sure. Stephen, we can acknowledge that. And I'm sure that you've heard the level of frustration and confusion as well that persists, but we're still here. We're still on it. Okay. So let's see if we can wrap up our agenda business. I'd just like to read again quickly. I stopped somewhere in the middle, but just to get through the list of the volunteers that we have down. Trout Restocking, Diane Reynolds and Ken Clarkson, thank you. Fertilizer Management, we don't have anyone. Data Organization and Encouragement of Testing by Town and Volunteers, Suzanne Langridge and Jeff Parker. Road Paving and Drainage, Laura Wilson. Other committee liaisons, effectively Jim Ricker for the NRC. Water Quality Testing, Jeff Parker, Kate Blair, Beth Kelly, and Suzanne Langridge. Audit Committee of Town Spending on Pond and Beach Projects, no one. Community Emails and Information Sharing, that's a project underway already. So we've got Ken Clarkson, Lucas Irwin, and Laura Wilson will support a bit. Sewage Treatment or Alternatives, Jeff Parker and Jim Ricker, that one's going to take a good while. Well, number 7, Pumping and Pond Water Level, Jeff Parker and Alice Rosen. Hopefully that'll be quick. We'll get a write-up. We'll be able to post it on our information website. We can move on. And Beach Project Development, Nick, although it sounds like we should talk a bit offline about what that should shape up to be.
Sounds good. And can you put me down for NRC and Health Committee liaison?
Great, thank you. Okay, and so a last call for volunteers, folks who haven't been heard from, folks who just don't have enough to do in their day, like to help out in some way. Anybody? Nope. Okay. All right. So we're going to move forward. Thank you all to those who volunteered. The next topic is, should the White Pond Advisory Committee apply to the Concord Preservation Committee for funds for water quality testing and continuation of the APOD treatments? So where this is coming from is that a volunteer who's not on this call did a lot of research with the Concord Preservation Committee to find out, first of all, is WPAC eligible? If we did put in an application, what would it look like? I believe she's gone as far as actually writing the full application. There is some precedent. Our understanding is the Concord Preservation Committee did fund erosion control efforts around White Pond, and we have that from the town. Thank you, town. So, and you may also, in case you're not aware, that a company called Higgins Environmental has been testing. They have a National Institutes of Health grant to be testing a technology called the APOD, or conversely, I've heard it called PPOD, so I'm a little confused there myself. But what it does is collects toxic algae blooms from White Pond. It is a physical device that picks up algae. So this is an open question that I'd like to bring up for debate with the committee, and happy to hear from anyone else who has an opinion. But should the town apply? Should White Pond Advisory Committee apply to keep funding the Higgins environmental treatments at White Pond and to have our own water quality testing activity. Committee, Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we should, I don't really have an opinion about the Higgins thing because I think it's dealing with the symptoms. But I think we should do a comprehensive testing on the pond regularly. And I think when I've talked to the state and the EPA, they thought that they never heard of a town that couldn't support such a small line item thing like a budget for that. So I think we should try and get testing done. And where we get the money, I'm not sure, but it shouldn't be a big deal. We should be able to do it.
Cheryl, what do you think?
I think we need more data. I think we need to know sort of what we're testing, what parameters we're testing, the cost of such testing, the cost of the John Higgins removal device is. I mean, I think I would like to have more data before I made any final conclusions about that, because I think we'd need to know what we'd be testing for and what makes sense.
Okay.
So just randomly, I'm sort of in support of getting more testing, absolutely. But I would like more parameters before made any final decisions.
Sure. So I'm sorry that Beth is not on the call because she actually got the cost data from Higgins Environmental. And the testing costs are in fact in the White Pond Vision. So we do have that information. I should
For all the
note
testing
also,
that we are doing,
no,
that
no,
we're expecting for just him.
the ideal testing, whatever the ideal testing.
Yeah, all right. I mean, okay.
Yeah,
I
Beth
know
is very
there have been
knowledgeable.
recommendations what other places do and all that sort of stuff, but I guess I would like to have a real conversation about what's ideal testing, when we would do the testing and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I think that as I've seen it, a potential application by WPAC to the Concord Preservation Committee includes basically saying we have to figure this out and this is the money that we're going to use to figure that out.
Oh, that's great. That sounds great.
I should also mention, Jim, get to you in just one sec. I should also mention that there is a deadline to this. The deadline is September 17th. So if the committee decides tonight to pursue an application, someone on the committee, not me, because I'm still on the vision, but someone will need to raise their hand. I think Beth is involved. I think our volunteer has already done most of the work, but someone will need to own this process to get it through the door. Jim, what do you think about this?
Well, it's kind of an unusual step for a committee, but my concern is there doesn't appear to be another source of funds for this kind of activity. To solve this problem with the pond, we're going to have to come at it from a variety of angles. So there's kind of a lot of research and development type work, which you don't always get the right answer from, but it keeps you from going too far astray. And I think that's my thought is, the town has done, I mean, the erosion control in the cove, and from what I can tell, the runoff and so forth with the beach project is incredibly extensive and comprehensive. But there's several other things that we need to do that are going on in various places. And this is just one example of a test that can eventually lead us to a solution. We're also going to be looking at not just sewage treatment, but alternatives, additions to a septic system that remove nitrogen and greatly reduce phosphorus. So that's one of the things we'll look at. So my opinion here is we're not trying to butt heads with the town, but this is a known problem. It's been going on for years. It's progressive. And if you study the data, starts with Bill Walker, then ESS, and then the fellow from SUNY in New York who came and did a study. They all say the same thing. And it's pretty technical stuff, but it leads you to the position of we need to do something. Eutrophication is occurring. The sources are many.
Jim, in the interest of time, let me get your hit on should we be applying for a Concord Preservation Committee grant to
Well, I'd like to
tackle
hear from the town if there's some discretionary funds where they can support these kinds of studies as they become available.
Okay, so it seems like Stephen Crane would like to have some input on that. Stephen?
So we do have funds currently budgeted for testing, and we have done some testing, and Delia and Kate have more detail on that than I do. And I think as we prepare the FY23 budget, given what we've seen in the pond over the past year, we would certainly increase that amount. And I think that, you know, I don't know what ideal testing is. And if there's a certain protocol or convention for testing that we should be following that really paints a comprehensive picture of pond health, and that's something that we should definitely build in the budget. But we are currently doing testing, and we have budget funds to get us through the end of the year to do additional testing. And then, like I said, I think I've already talked to Kate about making sure our FY23 budget includes sufficient funds to do testing. All I can tell you about CPA is they get far more applications than they can fund. And I think if they asked the town, well, are you doing some of this? We would say, yes, we are. And so I think it's, if there's gaps that you see that we're not addressing in our testing, and so what you're trying to do is fund a gap instead of an entire program, that may help. But we do have funds allocated, and we will, like I said, keep that in the operating budget on an ongoing basis, so we can, because like I said, our commitment is to pond health as well.
Thank you. And Stephen,
May I
so
ask
you're,
a question?
hold on just one moment, Stephen, just so you're aware, we've done actually quite a lot of research about the testing that the town is doing versus the testing that other towns do and other ponds, and there's a pretty big gap there. So, and so we have a couple of options about what ideal testing looks for, and we now have volunteers who will work on that going forward. But that is what the idea of the money is, to upgrade to the status or the level where other towns are. Delia, you want to comment? Delia K, did you want to say something?
I don't think I have anything additional that I want to add. I think Stephen framed that correctly. We are doing some testing that looks at the work that was done for the slope restoration project at Sachem's. We're trying to get some data costing to see what cyanobacteria testing looks like that we would set up in, for next summer. So I think that's in line with, what Stephen was just suggesting.
Okay. Delia, so we have fully costed out what cyano testing looks like with a couple different alternatives. It's not in the draft vision. It's something that we found out over the last few weeks, but we have the information.
So that would be great if you could share that information with the town, Josh, because we don't have that from you guys.
Yeah.
And if we're going to work together, I think that would be helpful. You know, when the town has testing done, we do it under a quality assurance plan, a QAP, that basically says the data is collected in a certain way that is accepted by the state. It can be replicated, and everybody is aware of how that data is collected. So we want to have that same level of assurance with anybody who is doing volunteer testing. So if we, at some point, moving forward, we'll work with, people to develop a volunteer program. We want to make sure that everyone is collecting data in a way that can be usable for everybody. So that's really key if we're going to collect data that's meaningful.
Great. Delia, also a question for you on the same topic of the Community Preservation Act possibility. Are you engaging in separate conversations with Higgins Environmental about continuing the APOD, PPOD treatments?
So we're in very close contact with John Higgins with his APOD program, and he is doing this for free for the town for the time being. He is doing this as part of an NSF grant and National Science Foundation grant that he's you know, excited to be doing this work at White Pond. He grew up in Concord. He swam at White Pond Associates Beach. So he has a lot of interest. He doesn't live here now. He's on the North Shore, but yes, we're in contact with him, you know, very close contact. So he's not looking right now to sell his product. I think he will when it's deemed to be effective, but right now it's a pilot. So
Yeah.
I don't think that we need to be applying for CPC funds to purchase his product that's not yet, you know, it's right now it's a pilot.
Okay. All right, very well. So if I can recap then, Jeff, it sounds like you said testing, yeah, we should do that. Cheryl, it sounds like you said, well, I'm not sure, we need more data to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, I'd like to know exactly. I mean, I saw the costs and the visions that are sort of set out for the cyanobacteria testing. If that's what you're talking about, that's one thing.
Oh, well, it's not my turf, you know, I don't really know. I gotta follow you guys. Jim, what's your feeling then in the end about, should we make an application? Should we not make an application?
Well, from what Delia just said, it sounds like the town's already going forward with the APOD project.
No, no, she didn't.
No, I thought you said he's working for free. and it's
So we
gonna
are going
continue.
forward with the APOD project. It's not on the market, so there's no cost that we know. There's I wouldn't recommend that there's an application for the APOD projects that we want to put forward. I would also say that, you know, in terms of testing, I think, you know, there's CPC might be a good avenue for testing. We are having testing done, as Stephen said, and we're setting up a plan for next year for cyanobacteria testing. But for the APOD, it's not on the market. I mean, it's a pilot, and I don't think it's appropriate personally, you know, my opinion, it's not appropriate to be applying for funds that is something we don't even know if it works. We're hopeful and it's promising, but there's no, we don't have the data yet that supports that it's going to do what we want it to.
For the testing, for the cyano testing in particular, that the town is working to budget, is that the right language, that the town is budgeting for? Is that going to be still, my understanding is right now you're testing at the beach and at the Dover Street Beach is sort of a quasi favor kind of thing. Are those the areas that would also be tested for cyano, or will it be broader than that?
So those, what you're referring to are the E. coli testing, which is required for beach testing. And Susan Rask has her hand up and she can respond to that much better than I can. For the cyanobacteria testing, we're looking at pond wide.
Great. Great. Let me turn to Susan. Susan?
So I would just kind of second what Delia said. We're working with ESS, who are the previous pond consultants, to come up with a sampling plan that will be meaningful. I think before you gather any data, you need to know what question you're trying to answer. And then you create a sampling plan that will get you the data that helps you answer that question. And that's what Delia and I have been working with ESS and will continue to work with them over the winter so that we're hopefully ready to launch something in spring of next year.
Oh, great.
I mean, so sampling for cell counts is one thing, or species, but what does that tell you about the health of the pond or what is causing that bloom that year, other than the generality that we know that it's a nutrient enrichment problem? But what's actually causing the bloom one year versus not so much another year? And I'd like to find some data that kind of helps us with that question.
We would all, that would be great. Is there room for our interested water testing volunteers to speak with ESS, to speak with you, to get documents that they've sent, proposals that they've sent, to get them up to speed on this?
So if there are specific, documents that you guys want, of course, those are public record and you are most welcome to those. Direct contact with ESS costs us, the town, money. So no, so if there are specific questions that you have for ESS, you can send them to me or to Susan and we will direct those to the consultant. But we're happy to share whatever information that you're looking for. Just let us know what it is.
And I think Delia and I are happy to meet with some subgroup of this committee to hear your thoughts on what you think the best sampling strategy is. And, we can take that to ESS and see what they say.
That sounds great. That sounds fantastic. Appreciate that.
Yep, that's much appreciated. And also in the White Pond Vision, there's a very long appendix about water quality testing that some of the team members have worked on. So you guys know we put a good amount of time into that. That is not a legible appendix to me, but for those of you who are interested in water quality testing, it looks really good. Okay, great. So committee, let's get back to the core question on the agenda. Do we want to submit a proposal to the Concord Preservation Concord Preservation Committee for funds for water quality testing and continuation of APOD treatments? I would like to make a motion that we vote on this and settle the matter for where we stand.
Well,
I guess I would move, given the information that we received from the town and the fact that I'm going to say John Higgins device, because I keep forgetting the 3 letters, or whatever, 4 letters, is not up, is just it's not sort of ready for use at this point. It's still being tested. I think at this point, given the information we have from the town, that I would not recommend testing. I'm sorry, asking for funds for additional testing.
Okay.
But how about if we just vote about testing and not the Higgins machine?
I think given the information from the town, I think we need more information before we, even though the date's in 2 weeks from now, I know we have some numbers on testing. I guess I would feel more comfortable at this point having discussions with the town about what they're planning for testing and giving our input that way, rather than asking for funds for testing that we would be in charge of.
I agree with that as well. I agree with Cheryl.
Jim?
I think what we heard from Delia and Susan about the cyanobacteria testing, working with ESS on it, and they're already working on that. Plus, Higgins is going to go forward without any money to continue his beta program. It doesn't make sense, Josh. My overriding concern about all of this is that we're going to do a lot of testing, and that's vital that we do that. But I would like to see us taking more steps concurrently to deal with what we think are the causes. I mean, there's just so much data now that should lead us in certain directions.
Yep.
And I just hope that some things can be done in parallel.
Absolutely. Well, I think the more volunteers we have, the faster we'll move.
Josh, I have a question, just real quick.
Wait, hold on, Nick. We got to finish this. Susan Rask has her hand up, and then we will get to you.
Oh, sorry. I meant to take my hand down. Sorry. Just not sure how to do that.
That's okay. So just to wrap this up, I'm in agreement with all of you. I vote that we should not be submitting a Concord Preservation Committee request at this time, that we also need more data, and that it sounds like the town is moving forward in the right directions, and I'd like to see what they come with. And I'd also like for them to get the information that we've uncovered, which could be helpful to the process. So thank you. So we'll wrap that up. Nick.
Nick, 38 Bolton. I think Susan had mentioned a test that was separate from the one that's currently being done. If you recall, when she came to one of our meetings, a couple meetings back, and Susan, maybe you can help me. My memory is a little fuzzy, but there was a type of test that you were describing that we're in the cyanobacteria, which I understand that's the one, that's the good one for our health, right? To test, which the town is doing, and that's great. There was a separate test that was mentioned that wasn't done, that was a little bit bigger, more invasive, that we didn't have funding for. do we know what kind of test that was? And Susan, you mentioned it specifically. Does anybody recall this?
So I can try to speak to that. The beaches, the town beach and the Dover Street beach, all beaches, all licensed beaches are required to test for E. coli, and that has been done all summer for many, many years. Back in 2015, when we had the massive bloom on White Pond, the State Department of Public Health did cyanobacteria cell counts for us really all summer long for free, which was a great thing. There are so many ponds across the state now that are having blooms that the State Department of Public Health is no longer able to do that for us. So that's the, and it's expensive. It's going to be a very expensive testing. It's going to be probably $1,000 a sample if we do 3 or 4 points around the pond, or maybe more. So we've got to decide how to best spend money to get the most bang for our buck to really understand what's going on with the algae. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So what I'm hearing you say is that, there is another test that is pretty expensive due to, new circumstances that would have been done by the state. But I'm also hearing you guys say, like, well, it doesn't seem like we need money for testing. I'm saying the WPAC is saying, we don't need money for testing. You know what I mean?
I think so. I
Is
mean,
that a
if we want,
disconnect here? Yeah.
what I would say is, if we want a really comprehensive sampling program that gives us sort of real-time data each week about what's going on, that's going to be probably in the tens of thousands of dollars to do. And then we have to make a decision as a group, as a town, whether the town's going to fund it or whether you folks want to find funding, or whoever funds it. Do we need data every week? I mean, the controversy this spring or June when the bloom started was, we're seeing a little bit of bloom. Why are we not doing cell counts? How do we know whether it's safe to swim or not? So I'll kind of remind people who haven't been watching the pond for the last 6 years the way I have. In 2015, we had this massive bloom that started right before the 4th of July that went all summer long, really well into October until we lost the light levels. In the intervening summers, we've had what I will call little blooms that kind of come and go. You'll see it as a little ring around the shoreline. We didn't do any testing those summers because I guess I made a professional kind of judgment that I didn't think there was enough algae present that I thought there was likely to be a health threat to it. I kind of talked to other towns and to DPH. We did post some advisories those summers, advising people to keep small children and pets out of the scum along the water line. And I think that worked pretty well. And then this year, of course, the bloom started in June and persisted and has been pretty significant all summer long. And then people were asking us, why aren't we doing cell counts as one of the criteria that the Department of Public Health uses for beach closure? But the reality is, once you see a visible scum, that alone is enough that DPH will tell us to post the no swimming advisory. So, I mean, I'm trying to think about a good way to spend someone's money, the town's money or someone's money. Next summer, if we start to see a little bit of scum, I think some cell tests, some cell counts would probably be good. But once we get into visible scum, we're supposed to post a no swimming advisory anyway. So how much testing do we do and how much money do we spend? And I think that's a discussion we need to have.
Susan, I'm sorry that Beth Kelly is not here. She's really done quite a lot of work on this, as well as figuring out some alternative testing regimes that keep the cost much lower than the $1,000 per sample. So I'm sure she'll be in touch on that.
Okay.
And also, I want to point out that Nancy Leland, that her whole entire project is trying to come up with an alternative way, using many of the samples that Carmen's been collecting, and it's part of an EPA project to reduce the cost using different alternatives to actually measure using I won't go into details, but she's trying to come up with a less expensive way to come up with a count.
And
I'm not saying that it's going to happen quickly, but that's her whole intent.
I understand, Cheryl. Both Delia and I went to the conference at UNH a couple of years ago where Nancy Leland spoke. We understand what she's trying to do. The trouble is that the Department of Public Health has specific criteria that I'm supposed to use to post the no swimming and the water use advisories. So I can't
I
just
might-
kind of freelance, you know?
Oh, no, I know, but I'm just saying that I think because so many towns are having this issue,
Yes.
maybe the state will change if with more data. That's
Yep.
my only, I'm just saying that there's hope maybe that things will change.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right.
I guess I have a question, Josh, from the various conversations, which have really been helpful, but is there a clear sense of urgency within all the town departments that this is really becoming a big problem? So that several of your departments are involved, obviously. Is everybody kind of in sync on this? Or are there still a lot of, differing opinions about, what should be done and when it should be done?
Right, so let's ask the town. Stephen Crane has told us that Kate Hodges is the point person. Kate, would you like to answer that question? Nope.
I can speak to that, Josh, or Kate can, but I mean, we have a working group, and many of them are here. I think all of them are here tonight. And we do get together to touch base on White Pond issues in a comprehensive way. And so, yeah, we are, I think I've told you this before, everyone here is committed to try and protect water quality and do what's right for the pond. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, Jim. And also you've been a good partner on this. And like I said, we're all here, we're working on this actively, and we try and make sure that each department knows what the other is doing, and each department is also building on the work of the other instead of running cross purposes. And I think we're actually doing a good job of that. Again, I think the closing of the transaction of the donation from White Pond to the town occurred during my time, and I've been here 2 years. So this is still a thing that we're scaling up to. And so I think, and you guys went through the historical perspective of a different, you called it, I think, a different type of management. I didn't hear much about, I heard a lot about the private beach, and I think that stuff was clear to me, and I could see the distinctions. But in terms of approach to pond health, I think this is still something we're all working towards together. And so, yeah, the long answer to that short question is yes, the town departments are working together.
Yeah, man, I don't think there's any question, Stephen, that everybody's working hard. First of all, it's a weeknight, and here you are listening to us for 2 hours, which is a credit to you and your staff. I'm just thinking more in terms of, you all have different kinds of expertise. Are you arriving at a consensus maybe on a sense of urgency or a time frame in which you want to get things done?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could just speak to that a little bit with the one, beach parcel, I guess. And our hope was that we would install some type of stormwater system that would help improve the health of the pond immediately. And we didn't think it was going to solve the issue, but the hope was that it would help. And I think you heard Delia speak today about the Cove restoration project, and taking time to, revisit the water quality testing to see how successful that project was. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if it was Mr. Galper or somebody else. We certainly don't want to spend money on a disaster. That isn't the goal here. And I guess I don't think we're far apart with what we want. What I think is perhaps this might be a chicken and an egg syndrome, where we think perhaps if we install this, we will be working to improve it. And that will help us create a new baseline and try to narrow down some of the other areas. But I think that all of the town departments are in agreement that the pond's health in the resource area are failing, and that it's our job and our responsibility to work with the community and the state, frankly, to try to fix it and identify what we're able to identify with people that are smarter than all of us, and most are on this call, frankly, that can help us inform that. So that was really the catalyst for all of this. And my hope for the project personally is that we will see a really staunch and great difference in the water quality, but of course that's not a guarantee. But I think we're putting in a more robust system than is there. And so if I just think about that, you know, intellectually, I think it's a win. I hope we're right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks very much, folks. Okay, so that wraps us up. I'm going to just ask if there's any other business. Then we're going to talk about what's on the agenda for our September 29th meeting, and then we will call it a night. Is there anyone else who has other business that they would like to bring up?
I just have a question. I wasn't here the last meeting, and the kids were gonna give the report on the septics. Is that been done? Do you know? Or?
That's going to happen on September 29th. We offered that
Fantastic.
tonight, and the feedback was that they'd rather do it in person. So that's on the agenda for next time.
Fantastic.
And while we're on the septic talk, Susan, there was a call for us to invite you to make a presentation on September 29th. My own thought about that was it would be great for our septic volunteers to get up to speed first. When we talked about this on June 30th, Susan, when we invited you to a meeting, we did not want to waste your time to make a presentation. But let me ask you, would you like to come to our September 29th meeting to make a presentation, even though we have sewage and septic volunteers who may not be up to speed at that point? Susan Rask, you with us?
Yeah, sorry. I'd be happy to meet with the septic volunteers at any point if you think that would be helpful to do in advance. I'd be happy to give the septic presentation to the committee or to a smaller group, however you'd like to do it. Unfortunately, I can't do it on September 29th because I will be out of town for my niece's wedding.
All right.
But any other evening would be fine.
That sounds great. We'll invite you a little bit later in the fall. So you're definitely a big hit around here, Susan, and we definitely want to hear from you. But actually, I think it works out better to not do this on September 29th and let our volunteers get a little bit more headway. And also hear from what the White Pond Youth Conservation Group has found and have that be part of their ongoing information.
Okay.
Terrific. So for our next meeting, September 29th, we will hopefully be able to put our red seal of approval on the White Pond vision. Delia, we've heard you loud and clear that you have not gotten a chance to review that. Perhaps others have not as well. If you'd like to take a look, we'll make sure you get that promptly. So that still gives another week plus to get your feedback, and then we'd be able to wrap it up. It's been a big piece of work, so looking forward to calling it a day on that one. Okay, anyone else want to add anything, or shall we adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
second motion. All right, meeting adjourned, 8:53. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
Thank
Jeff.
Thank you, Josh.